Good morning, was it good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to another session of our coffee talks. That's right, we are in a wonderful place in the islands of Fiji. And again, wonderful youth. Okay, so I'm not going to talk anymore. Alka Patel, based here in London, Heartfulness trainer, and I'm also a teacher. Please welcome aboard and introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Janet. I'm 17 years old, and I am based in Latoka of Fiji. I have taken part a lot in the environmental climate change space here in Fiji, and I am a pure science student, and I have been involved with Heartfulness for around 10 months now, so fairly new.
Super.
Thank you. Makereta, would you like to go?
Yes, thank you, Janet. Hi, everyone. So I am Makereta Tawa. I'm 31 years old from Fiji. Fiji is a small nation in the Pacific. It's a dot in the world map with a population of 800,000 people. Professionally, I'm a humanitarian worker, and I currently work for Save the Children Fiji in one of the projects responding to COVID-19. And I'm a heartfulness practitioner. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth. I'm based just outside of Melbourne in Australia, although most of the time I live in Kanha in India. But because of COVID, I'm here a bit longer than normal. And I've been a heartfulness practitioner for more than half my life and a trainer. And I'm also the editor of Heartfulness Magazine. So we're here to talk about one of the articles, and yeah, I'm excited to be with you. I was involved in the original setting up of the Heartfulness organizations in Fiji. So this particular coffee talks is very dear to my heart.
Bless. And we are so pleased to have all of you. Janet, would you like to put up the first slides for us?
Sure. Bringing that up right now.
So yes, guys, we have this wonderful article, Empowering Young People. Jeremy Gilly is a British actor and director working for a non-profit Peace One Day organisation, and he got together with one of our UK, we call her a trainer as well, Judith Nelson of the Heartfulness Institute, and they got together, did this wonderful article on sustainability, equality, justice, diversity, and the mobilization of youth. This was such a wonderful article you have picked, Janet and Makereta. Could we have the next slide? And please tell us what resonated with you and this article.
Sure. So I picked this first quote. When I first skimmed over the article, this was one of the first sentences that popped out to me. So looking at failure as success. I think the reason I was so intrigued by this sentence is because of how it challenges the norms or how we typically act and react to situations. I found that usually when we fail at something, and I'm sure we all have failed here at some point in our lives, we tend to be quite disheartened and quite sad, or sometimes we even tend to blame everything else but ourselves. So this made me think that maybe failing isn't a bad thing at all. Maybe it's something good, and maybe it teaches you something, because failing, I feel, just makes everyone work so much harder because they don't want to be back in that position again. And as you're working harder to get where you want to be, you learn so many things along the way, so many things that you would have never previously learned or stumbled upon. So I really like this quote, and I want to know what you think, Makereta, about this quote.
Thank you, Janet. For me, when we talk about youth, as a youth, we should understand that we still have a long way to go. We still have a long way, a lot of opportunity to do mistakes, and it's okay to do mistakes. For me, what's important is responsibility, responsibility for your actions, because just like you said, we can't blame others for our failure, and it's acceptance that this had happened. You own up to your part and move forward. So I guess failure is really an opportunity for us to pause, reality checks, own up to your part, and move forward. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I love the way you've explained this. And can I invite Elizabeth to what your feelings on this quote?
Yeah, well, at my age, of course, there have been lots of failures. And the thing is, I don't think as you get older, if you're continually pushing the boundaries, if you're continually a work in progress, it's not that you're really going to fail any less necessarily. You might make fewer mistakes because you learn wisdom. But if you're doing new things all the time, some of them are going to work, some of them are not going to work. That's just the way life is. And you can look at them as successes and failures, or you can look at them as experiments in any way you want to. But certainly, I don't see myself as always being successful just because I'm a lot older now. In fact, if I'm doing new things, if I'm trying new things, this element is always going to be there. And it's a good thing because it indicates you're doing something new. You're not staying in your comfort zone, but you're moving out of it into some new territory. So I think it's an exciting thing.
Totally agree. Again, you all know out there, and if you don't, as a teacher, I'm always saying, make the mistake. Well, not to the children, but in my heart, make the mistakes, because that's the only way they're going to build this resilience, this experiences, like you said, and skills. And if you don't, like again, Elizabeth said, and you guys, you kind of become sort of stable in that. And where's the learning, you know? So yeah, I totally agree. Love this quote. We have another one, don't we, Janet?
Yep, we do. There we go.
Ah, now who resonated with this one? Was that you, Makereta?
Yes. I quite like the journey in life and how it teaches you certain things that make it a little more interesting. For me, when I first read this, I had this beautiful feeling. It was a beautiful one because, one, I like life, and over the years, I've taught myself to love myself first, love life, and it has sort of led me to love the journey. Growing up, I've always been observant, questioning a lot of things, why this happened this way, not this way. And when I was introduced to meditation back then, the first thing I learned was to have no expectation. And sometimes when certain things happen, I go like, I wonder how I would have felt if I had expected this. And that is what makes life interesting. How about you, Janet?
Yeah, I really like this quote too, because it reminds you of just how important the little things are. And life is so unexpected. You can plan out your day, you can plan out your weeks, but you have to be open to the fact that it may not go as you expect. And that's okay, because that's what makes life fun and enjoyable. And if everything were to go according to our plan, I feel like none of us would be having these spontaneous moments, and I'm sure for most of us, our best moments are the ones that are not planned. And also, the journey of life helps you learn about things, not only about the world around you, but also about yourself. And that's one of the reasons I like meditating a lot at the end of the day, because I'm able to reflect on my day and see how this certain things that happened in my day affected me and what have I learned from those experiences, if anything. So yeah, that's something I was able to take away from this quote. Alka, what did you think about this?
I was just thinking what you were saying. I was thinking about all the journey. Now, is it a journey in the physical realm, I call it, like visiting this place, or is it my internal journey? I was trying to work out which one and kept coming back that if my internal journey, if I'm in a good place, and then how do I get to that good place? And it was what you were saying again, it's this reflecting, this meditation, and being able to know my inner self and stay in that connection that we talk about through heartfulness meditation. And if that for me is if I'm in a good place, so wherever I go, I think I'll be able to take these interesting I don't know, hurdles, I call them, and not be in fear or frightened. In fact, look forward to, excited. And as Elizabeth said, I'm not getting any younger, but I cannot wait for things to open up after all this COVID pandemic and get out there. I think we're all feeling that, Elizabeth.
Yeah, I really love what all of you have said, and I resonate so well. And looking back, I can honestly say that some of the hardest, most challenging times have been the times that have brought the best changes in my life. I went through a lot of ups and downs in my 20s. I was studying overseas, and I was in an academic world, and I was trying at the same time to figure out my personal life, relationships, family, all that sort of stuff. And it was a real struggle. And I got to a point at one stage when I was about 28 where I just hit rock bottom. I thought, God, well, what am I doing with my life? And it was a really tough time, but it was the turning point that then brought me towards spirituality and change and letting go of expectations, and probably the hardest moment in my life in many ways, but had the most profound effect. And when I look at that, and then I look at challenges in all areas, that's really where I can say I've had the biggest learning. Not in the times that have been wonderful and lovely and sweet. I mean, of course, I enjoy those. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a sadist, and I'm not a masochist. Sorry, I don't want to be suffering. But at the same time, I really appreciate that if we don't have moments that take us out of our comfort zone, we're not going to grow in the way that we want to.
No,
and it does make it interesting, but it just takes a lot of courage. And sometimes you're just like, oh God, what am I going to do? How am I going to face this? But just to know that life's only ever going to throw at you what you can handle.
Elizabeth, if I could just add, hearing you speak about this reminds me of a separate quote that I had read somewhere like a few months back. And it said that change is the only thing that's ever constant in your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that just resonated so much. Yes. I think we're okay to move on to the next slide.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, wow. Now this, I felt very strongly resonated with. It is quite amazing when you see beautiful things happening, when people are very determined, climbing the mountain, especially if you love the mountain so much that you're just never going to stop climbing, irrespective of whether you get to the top or not. Powerful, positive, perfect in my eyes. But is it doable? Is this doable for everyone out there? This is, I always say, and just recently, one of the I've started a new job in a brand new class. They don't know me. And week 2, oh, Mrs. Patel, you're so positive. And I think, am I too positive? So, which is lovely. But I always think, what about those children or those people out there that are not in this space? I don't know. Janet, what are you thinking?
Yeah, definitely. So this quote resonates with me to some extent as well. Like, I could relate that to my personal life with, and I feel like no matter what you do at life, you have to love it because it's not about the end result, it's about the journey. And this is similar to one of our previous quotes, but it's about how you get there. And if you don't love that, then like, what's the point of doing that? So I think it's very important, especially as youth in my age group, to pick something your career-wise, something that you love doing and not just something that your parents are telling you to do or all these social pressures are, you know, kind of telling you to do. But what do you just have to take a minute and just reflect on what you really want and what you see yourself doing. And this is a reason why I love doing my environmental work in the climate field, because people are like, Janet, you give so much. Like, how are you able to do this at like, and you're still in high school? And I say, because I just love doing it. At times it's hard because you have all these, big organizations and corporations not listening to you, but not taking you for granted because you're a youth still, 17. But it's still so rewarding doing it because you meet so many like-minded people along the way from all over the world, and you're able to just get in touch with people who have the same interests with you, and it just makes it so fun. And although we're all working towards the same outcome, I feel like eventually we're still like having fun doing it, and that's the most important part. But yeah, Makereta, what did you think about this quote?
For me, what resonated was time now, was how people strive to live their life, to live their everyday life despite COVID-19. COVID-19 was something none of us expect as a humanitarian in the work that we do. We have collected some beautiful, beautiful stories, some impactful ones of how determined some families are to continue climbing the mountain, which I sort of compared it to life. Irrespective of whether you live longer or whether you live towards the end or finish the race. And we are just amazed when we come across such stories of how resilient people are. And it's a really beautiful thing.
I'm sure Makereta and Janet would love to hear how many mountains, or is it the same mountain, Elizabeth? Sorry, I'm sorry. I really want to hear all of you because this is amazing. This is amazing, this quote.
Yeah, I think what I've learned most is that we're not meant to climb the mountain alone. Because there are times for every single person, no matter how positive, no matter how courageous you are, where you just think, oh my God. And, I'm really interested in what you're doing, Makereta, with your aid work, because I think, you would be helping people day in, day out who need that sort of support, and especially children. And I think it's all our responsibility. One of the things I love that Babuji said to the Danes when they were first visiting to India in the early 70s, and they were having these discussions with him about various things. And he said something really interesting. He said, helping our fellow human beings is not charity, it's our human duty. It's our human responsibility to help each other. It's not something amazingly wonderful or strange. It's what we all need to be doing all the time. And I think it's sort of been highlighted in the last couple of years with COVID, like you were saying, that we have to look at ourselves in this way. So I look at the frontline workers. I was driving past a hospital in Melbourne yesterday, and I saw some of the nurses outside on their break, and it just made me think, my goodness, you are incredible what you're doing. You know, the hospitals here are overflowing at the moment because of COVID cases, because of the Omicron variant. And we've not had that in Australia before. I know in the US and in Europe it's been going on for a long time, but it's only recently that things have got this out of hand in Australia. And I'm just watching that here are people who've been on the front line of this for over 2 years now, who are still going, who are supporting, who are helping. And they also need support and help, because imagine what that's like. And I think everybody's sort of in the same boat, but to varying degrees. So let's climb mountains. We can't help that. We have to climb mountains because they keep coming, whether we like it or not. And we get to one peak and we think, great, you know, we've reached something. And then the next one's in front of us, and you know, on we go. But how do we support each other up the mountains is the thing that interests me most, because I think whether we get to the top or not is not so important as the unity with which we get there.
Absolutely. Now, unity. That brings back to what I was saying, Elizabeth, that those out there that may find it difficult, well, hey, let's put that hand out there. And also, can I say to our audience that Babaji Maharaj is one of Heartfulness previous global trainer, and some wonderful teachings and books out there. But hey, let's move on to that last quote, Janet.
Sure.
Elizabeth, we would like you.
Yeah. Okay. So this is why meditation is so important. So let's read it together. You've got to know where the cliff edge is. Otherwise, you're going to walk over it because you don't know. That's a waste. Know where the edge is. So how do you get to know where the edge is? I think this is really why meditation is so valuable, because unless you can get your mind into that state where it's not running helter-skelter, where your emotions and your thoughts and your feelings are simplified and are purified, so that you can see, you can discriminate, you can make choices that are going to help you to go in the right direction. And so if we're going to know where the cliff edge is while we're on this journey, the best thing that I've learned in life is to meditate, because with that, I'm able to then stop, go into my heart and say, all right, what is the right thing to do here?
Absolutely. And Makereta, what are you thinking with this quote?
For me, the one sentence, know when to stop. And like Elizabeth has already mentioned, the importance of meditation. To know when to stop is to have time for yourself and your loved ones, and life will be beautiful to you. We live in a world where everything is fast. The pressure from social media, the pressure from communities, families, peer pressure. So yes, you've got to know where the cliff edge is. Otherwise, you're just going to fall over. You're going to walk over it. So know when to stop. Have time for yourself and meditate.
And Janet?
Definitely. I think this quote just reminds you to stay grounded and be humble. That's one of the things that jumped out at me when I read that over a couple of times. And hearing Elizabeth and Makereta speak, meditation definitely does help in that. You need to know when to, like, you can do all these good things in the world and like go and brag about it, but what kind of person does that make you? So it's also how you want to be perceived. And I think meditation helps with that because you're reflecting in your inner self and seeing what do you want to put out in this world and why. Everything you say, you want to make sure that it has meaning and you're not just going and saying a lot of unnecessary things because then people take you for granted or don't want to listen to you as much anymore. So I think that, yeah, just staying humble and grounded is what sticks out to me. So, what you are?
No, absolutely, guys. Not recently, but in my youth, I didn't know what 9 hours of work was. It was more like 15, you know, it's just go, 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 especially when I was in the businesses. And to be fair, did not know when to stop. I was burning out. And you don't want to get to that stage where you crash. It leads to another thing and then another thing. And trying to get yourself out of it is harder. So knowing your limits and also having other, I say to my I've got teenagers and I say to them, well, I say teenagers, one's a younger adult now, not a teenager anymore. And she says to me, we talk about this life cycle and balancing the segments in our life cycle, you know, get them to draw it. And is it too much of one thing? And that's my way of reflecting always, that am I putting my time too much in one thing? And we know through the teachings of our previous global trainers and Daji, who's our Heartfulness trainer, global trainer at the moment, you know, we always talk about balancing the two wings, the left and the right. Thank you. So balancing these two wings, spirituality and our material, but within that as well, balancing that. So that's a question for everybody now. How do you balance? Because I'm sure our audience want to know about this, especially Makereta, the work you're doing. Are you full on there? How many hours are you doing out there?
Oh, yes. As a humanitarian worker, some of the qualities is to have compassion for every person. And one thing we always tell ourselves is that we can't always assist everyone. And so to have compassion is to also being able to have empathy, to encourage those vulnerable, to be more resilient, to have, so sharing the work, it's not always okay to go alone. It's okay that you have a support system, somebody supporting you, holding your hand. And so for us, making sure that we are not overloaded. So balancing your life, your social life, and your spiritual life, and having to have those qualities, those values, having empathy, compassion, being non-judgmental when you are engaging with others. And it's to be precise, it's a work from the heart and not from the ego.
And what about you, Janet? Because you're saying you're studying, you're doing this, you're doing that. How do you balance it all?
Definitely. First, I want to start out by saying, Makereta, I have a lot of respect for the work you do. And you're like an inspiration to me just hearing your story now. But I know it can be a lot sometimes with you have schoolwork and then environmental awareness, and then I do a lot of other things on the side too. But one thing that I make sure to do is to take out time for myself. And the days I have free, I just spend mostly in bed because it's a very typical teenager thing. I accept that. But yes, it's very important to take out time for yourself, and not just take out time for yourself and do nothing. Something that can wind you down, whether that be listening to music, coloring, reading a book. So that's one thing that helps me, as well as meditation. I feel like I'm fairly new to meditation, around less than a year still, but I found that it has started to help me in my everyday life, and it's so funny because I can't really meditate in the morning yet because I wake up at different times every day, but whenever I do meditate before I go to bed, I make a point to do so. And I'm usually feeling burnt out before I do. And then once I meditate, I just feel like rejuvenated almost. It's like I can't explain it in words, really, the feeling, but it's like amazing the effects that I've witnessed so far. And yeah, it's just making sure that you have a strong support system as well, as Makereta was saying. So I'm very thankful for my parents who support me in everything I do, as well as my sister.
Oh, Janet, I call it the reset button. It's like a reset button of your, Elizabeth, how does one keep balanced?
I think it's not actually very helpful to think about trying to balance different things. Why? Because if you become too rigid about it and you say, I have to do this at this time and this at this time and this at this time, it doesn't always work because life gets in the way. And we all know that. And then you just get frustrated. So one thing I've learned, and it's something that's really part of the heartfulness philosophy, is that this balance is not about like weighing things on a scale. I do this much sleep and I do this much work and I do this much meditation. It's not like that. It's about integrating things. So what does that mean? It means that if I look at the way nature works and I look at natural cycles, and you're a science student, Janet, so you would see this when you go out scuba diving. You know, I trained as a marine biologist, and it's how I learned a lot of this stuff, is that when you observe nature, there are these cycles. There are cycles of activity and rest. There are circles of night and day, of light and dark, and it's not like they're all compartmentalized. Things can happen on top of that. The weather can be bad. You live in a Pacific island, you can have a tsunami, you can have a hurricane, and everything goes for a toss. But underneath all that is this wonderful sense of rhythm that's in the natural world. And when I find my rhythm, when I'm able to rest well, when I'm able to sleep well, when I'm able to meditate well, when I'm able to be active well, to exercise, to do my work, to do everything in a sort of a fluid way. I would call it being in the flow, so that I'm not saying this, it's not a compartmentalized thing, you know, and I'm a mother, as you know, I've got, my kids are adults now, but you can imagine trying to do all this and look after kids and etc., etc. So there has to be this sense of responsiveness to the world and to yourself. And that means listening to yourself. So it's like sometimes I think, I've got to take a break now. I need to go and do something restful. And what I find is that when I listen to that and I go and do something restful, whether that's sitting outside and having a cup of tea in the forest or whatever it is, then I find that life works and my creativity works, especially. If I'm go all the time, I don't have space to be able to allow other things to come. I think that's what you were referring to before, Makereta, when you said time for me. It's not a selfish time for me that you're talking about. It's a time to reset, but also a time to create this rhythm. And I love what Daji says about natural rhythms. You know, he says we need to sleep, we need to rest, we need to take time out to eat without rushing. We shouldn't be eating at our desk or eating on the go or these things, because otherwise we're in chaos, we're in a jumble when everything's mixed up all the time. So I think for me, balance is about that. It's about creating space for everything. And it's not always easy. I mean, I still don't get it right all the time, but I'm better at it than I was. And hopefully as a work in progress, I'm going to keep getting better at it.
Brilliant, because that brings me on to say that what are we working on? It's the new year, and you know, something Elizabeth just said, we're constantly working on ourselves. Just wanted to also share this, teaching others, whilst Elizabeth and you guys were talking, something I've done with the new class again, and I've realized children out there, they don't know how to sit in silence, just without anything, without a gadget, without the TV. And when you ask that question, oh yeah, I'll play with my PlayStation, blah, blah. So just putting in that 2-minute relaxation recently into my class, the adults have noticed the difference. The children are really understanding it. And I think we mustn't be frightened of sharing these things, because it's really, we already know. I always say this, we already know about this. We've just forgotten or not been taught. Makereta, have you been sharing anything regarding the heartfulness practice with people you're working with?
Yes. For me, it's the being able to resonate this peaceful nature, and that's what speaks a lot of times. And when people ask, I would start with meditation. For us, in some cases, it's still a new thing here in Fiji, because like I shared earlier, we live in a world where things are always moving, things are fast, the pressure from social media. And for me, every day, what I always do is, before I go out to work, what I meditate about is being able to portray that peacefulness to others, so that it's a beacon, or sort of, for people to also resonate with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Janet?
Yeah. I'm fairly new to heartfulness, so I really haven't shared about meditation to anyone outside of the heartfulness community yet. I'm still trying to get my footing in, get my grounding, kind of really understand before I really talk about something that I wouldn't be able to explain a lot on. So I think it's very important that you have the knowledge and educate yourself in anything, any situation, and not just talk blindly, and not just pretend, just
Talk
for the
with
sake of talking.
experience. Yeah.
Exactly.
And that will come naturally. Everything comes naturally in this process. Just going back to the articles, would anyone like to, just be mindful of our time, about Jeremy's articles? Anybody like to say anything else about empowering young people? It's a powerful article, and what he has been doing. Yes, Elizabeth.
Yeah, I'd really like to highlight what he says about the fact that the future of humanity is with young people. Because the point he's making, I think, is so critical that it's at this time, those of us who are not under 30 need to basically stop and listen to what you guys have to say in terms of how we're going to move forward. And I hear this from Daji all the time in the Heartfulness community too, how it's the young ones who really have the inspiration, the understanding to take things forward. And I think it's a funny thing because, you know, we generally think of community as being where the elders is the wisest. And I don't feel that these days. I think it's like a topsy-turvy shift where it's time for young people to step up and do things in new ways, not the ways they've been done over the last few hundred years, because I think that's been where the mess has been. And attempts have been made to change it, but they haven't worked enough, you know, to some extent, but it's too slow. And right now we need something fast. So yeah, it's in your hands, guys.
Pressure is on.
Not pressure. I mean, in a joyful way. It's just in your hands.
No. To be fair, Elizabeth, I think it's a natural process. There is a natural process. I feel it amongst the youth work that we've been doing across the globe. There's some very, very, very interesting youth out there, including you two, doing all this work that, again, Elizabeth has said, absolutely, absolutely. And it's, I mean, would you like to say anything before we go, Janet or Makereta, on that?
Yeah, sure. I definitely agree with what Elizabeth was saying. It's very important to empower young people with the tools they need to carry us forward, because eventually we're going to be the leaders. And we can't keep saying that, oh, we're going to just, they'll figure it out eventually. Like, especially, and there's so many issues in this day and age, so many issues that need to be addressed. And I think Jeremy himself is an advocate on many of them, such as racial injustice, climate, and so many others. So I think it's very important that if you're able to, if you're in a position to equip young people with the tools that they need.
You know, Janet, whilst she was saying it, I had a thought. My daughter is at university. She's at Cambridge. She only told me last night she went up against one of a British MP, member of Parliament. There was a big debate, and she's only like you. She's only very young, 19. And I just thought, if you guys don't voice, because it is your future. Now, the other thought I had was, you can do it through voicing, but you can do it through action, which I feel Makereta is doing as well. So I must really praise the pair of you in the work you are doing. Can I say we elders are very grateful? I don't know what to say, but I know I'm now not in your field, but I am. Just keep sharing, keep going. Again, before we leave, I don't want to leave, but I'm always mindful because we only have a certain amount of time. Is there anything else you would like to say to people in Fiji, in Oceania, and the globe? Anything else? Yes, Makereta.
For me, it's awareness. It was something that was asked to Jeremy in the interview, if he thinks awareness is important. And I also think that awareness is also important, and it's up to us to continue to work. Lots of awareness to be put out there, and the narrative, constructive narrative, very, very important.
Absolutely. Elizabeth, would you like to? Because
Yeah, Makereta, you've just triggered something in me because I have such fond memories of the storytelling of your people. The Fijian narrative, like you just mentioned the narrative. I mean, I think one of the things I love about your culture is the way stories are told in a communal setting to bring about change. And it's a beautiful tradition, and it's a tradition that permeates the peacemakers of the world, actually, because it's such a powerful tool, storytelling. And I think we have to now get out of the negative storytelling of, we spoke about earlier about this thing of what happens to people who are not feeling so good and how to support them, etc. If you imagine that now in a community setting where you've got so many people affected by COVID and by unemployment and all the social issues that result from that, how do we create a narrative that brings us out of that into these new beginnings? I think that's our job right now. And that means bringing all the worldviews together. We have Indigenous worldviews, we have Eastern, we have Western worldviews, but each one has something really valuable to offer. And one of the things from your culture is this amazing communal cohesion and social narrative that goes on around that. And I think we have a lot to learn from that. And certainly in Fiji, there's so much you guys can do with that can help us in the rest of the world. So that's my request to you.
that I did not know, and thank you for sharing, Elizabeth. And Makereta, that culture is powerful. I think it happens but I think it was happening because my mother would tell me back in the days in the village, because she's from a small village in India, in Gujarat. And I remember when I went to see my nanny when I was your age, actually, Janet, and stayed with her for 3 months, just in the village. And that's all they did, that all the households would get together and then share. And it felt like it was gossiping, but it wasn't. It was their way, yes. So I'm going to say, have a lovely evening. My day has just started. May I also say I'm so grateful for your time, all of you. I know how busy you are, Elizabeth, and you guys, please continue the work. And I'm sending you all my love. I'm now going to go quiet. You can say your byes together, and then we shall leave.
I just want to say lovely to meet you. And yeah, even if we can't meet in person, it's great to meet virtually. And I'm also so impressed and so grateful with what you're both doing. And I look forward to more contact with you in the future.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity as well to do this. It was very eye-opening, a very eye-opening experience, and hopefully we can meet each other soon again, even if it's virtually. It was so nice to meet you, Elizabeth. And I'm very inspired by the work you do. So thank you. And thank you, Alka, as well. And
yes.
Margaret.
Yes, our wonderful anchor.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Alka. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Janet. This was a lovely time with all of you. The discussion was really fruitful. It was really wonderful to hear from all of you. And as we say here, Modemanda.
Oh, bless.
And Vinaka, which means thank you.
Oh, bless. Can you say it again so I can say it?
Modemanda.
Mondamanda.
Good try.
Okay. Just before I forget, I have forgotten to say this to our audience. This article is from the Heartfulness Magazine. Now, our Heartfulness Magazine is online. It is free. It is available to everybody across the globe. It comes out once a month. So watch out for the next one as well, because I know there are amazing articles in there. So once again, thank you, and thank you. Stay safe and stay blessed.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Bye, guys.
everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Alka.